Dead Souls, Part 1, Chapter 11, Section 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Dead Souls by Nikolai Vasilievich Gogol. Translated by D.J. Hogarth. Part 1, Chapter 11, Section 1. Read by Anna Simon. Nevertheless, events did not turn out as Chichikov had intended they should. In the first place, he overslept himself. That was check number 1. In the second place, on his rising and inquiring whether the britchka had been harnessed and everything got ready, he was informed that neither of those two things had been done. That was check number 2. Beside himself with rage, he prepared to give Selifan the wigging of his life, and, meanwhile, waited impatiently to hear what the delinquent had got to say in his defence. It goes without saying that when Selifan made his appearance in the doorway, he had only the usual excuses to offer, the sort of excuses usually offered by servants when a hasty departure has become imperatively necessary. "Paul Ivanovitch," he said, "the horses require shoeing." "Blockhead!" exclaimed Chichikov. "Why did you not tell me of that before, you damned fool? Was there not time enough for them to be shod?" "Yes, I suppose there was," agreed Selifan. "Also, one of the wheels is in want of a new tire, for the roads are so rough that the old tire is worn through. Also, the body of the britchka is so rickety that probably it will not last more than a couple of stages." "Rascal!" shouted Chichikov, clenching his fists and approaching Selifan in such a manner that, fearing to receive a blow, the man backed and dodged aside. "Do you mean to ruin me, and to break all our bones on the road, you cursed idiot? For these 3 weeks past you have been doing nothing at all, yet now, at the last moment, you come here stammering and playing the fool. Do you think I keep you just to eat and to drive yourself about? You must have known of this before. Did you or did you not know it? Answer me at once." "Yes, I did know it," replied Selifan, hanging his head. "Then why didn't you tell me about it?" Selifan had no reply immediately ready, so continued to hang his head while quietly saying to himself, "See how well I have managed things. I knew what was the matter, yet I did not say." "And now," continued Chichikov, "go you at once and fetch a blacksmith. Tell him that everything must be put right within 2 hours at the most. Do you hear? If that should not be done, I will give you the best flogging that ever you had in your life." Truly Chichikov was almost beside himself with fury. Turning towards the door, as though for the purpose of going and carrying out his orders, Selifan halted and added, "That skewbald barin, you might think it well to sell him, seeing that he is nothing but a rascal. A horse like that is more of a hindrance than a help." "What? Do you expect me to go now to the market-place and sell him?" "Well, Paul Ivanovitch, he is good for nothing but show, since by nature he is a most cunning beast. Never in my life have I seen such a horse." "Fool! Whenever I may wish to sell him, I shall sell him. Meanwhile, don't you trouble your head about what doesn't concern you, but go and fetch a blacksmith, and see that everything is put right within 2 hours. Otherwise I'll take the very hair off your head, and beat you till you haven't a face left. Be off! Hurry!" Selifan departed, and Chichikov, his ill humour vented, threw down upon the floor the poignard which he always took with him as a means of instilling respect into whomsoever it might concern, and spent the next quarter of an hour in disputing with a couple of blacksmiths, men who, as usual, were rascals of the type which, on perceiving that something is wanted in a hurry, at once multiplies its terms for providing the same. Indeed, for all Chichikov's storming and raging, as he dubbed the fellows robbers and extortioners and thieves, he could make no impression upon the pair, since, true to their character, they declined to abate their prices, and, even when they had begun their work, spent upon it not 2 hours, but 5½ Meanwhile he had the satisfaction of experiencing that delightful time with which all travellers are familiar, namely, the time during which one sits in a room where, except for a litter of string, waste paper, and so forth, everything else has been packed. But to all things there comes an end, and there arrived also the long-awaited moment when the britchka had received the luggage, the faulty wheel had been fitted with a new tire, the horses had been reshod, and the predatory blacksmiths had departed with their gains. "Thank God!" thought Chichikov as the britchka rolled out of the gates of the inn, and the vehicle began to jolt over the cobblestones. Yet a feeling which he could not altogether have defined filled his breast as he gazed upon the houses and the streets and the garden walls which he might never see again. Presently, on turning a corner, the britchka was brought to a halt through the fact that along the street there was filing a seemingly endless funeral procession. Leaning forward in his britchka, Chichikov asked Petrushka whose obsequies the procession represented, and was told that they represented those of the public prosecutor. Disagreeably shocked, our hero hastened to raise the hood of the vehicle, to draw the curtains across the windows, and to lean back into a corner. While the britchka remained thus halted, Selifan and Petrushka, their caps doffed, sat watching the progress of the cortege, after they had received strict instructions not to greet any fellow servant whom they might recognize. Behind the hearse walked the whole body of tchinovniks, bareheaded, and though for a moment or two Chichikov feared that some of their number might discern him in his britchka, he need not have disturbed himself, since their attention was otherwise engaged. In fact, they were not even exchanging the small talk customary among members of such processions, but thinking exclusively of their own affairs, of the advent of the new Governor-General, and of the probable manner in which he would take up the reins of administration. Next came a number of carriages, from the windows of which peered the ladies in mourning toilets. Yet the movements of their hands and lips made it evident that they were indulging in animated conversation, probably about the Governor-General, the balls which he might be expected to give, and their own eternal fripperies and gewgaws. Lastly came a few empty droshkis. As soon as the latter had passed, our hero was able to continue on his way. Throwing back the hood of the britchka, he said to himself, "Ah, good friend, you have lived your life, and now it is over. In the newspapers they will say of you that you died regretted not only by your subordinates, but also by humanity at large, as well as that, a respected citizen, a kind father, and a husband beyond reproach, you went to your grave amid the tears of your widow and orphans. Yet, should those journals be put to it to name any particular circumstance which justified this eulogy of you, they would be forced to fall back upon the fact that you grew a pair of exceptionally thick eyebrows." With that Chichikov bid Selifan quicken his pace, and concluded, "After all, it is as well that I encountered the procession, for they say that to meet a funeral is lucky." Presently the britchka turned into some less frequented streets, lines of wooden fencing of the kind which mark the outskirts of a town began to file by, the cobblestones came to an end, the macadam of the high road succeeded to them, and once more there began on either side of the turnpike a procession of verst stones, road menders, and grey villagers, inns with samovars, and peasant women, and landlords who came running out of yards with sievesfuls of oats, pedestrians in worn shoes which, it might be, had covered 800 versts, little towns bright with booths for the sale of flour in barrels, boots, small loaves, and other trifles, heaps of slag, much repaired bridges, expanses of field to right and to left, stout landowners, a mounted soldier bearing a green, iron-clamped box inscribed "The X Battery of Artillery," long strips of freshly tilled earth which gleamed green, yellow, and black on the face of the countryside. With it mingled long-drawn singing, glimpses of elm tops amid mist, the far-off notes of bells, endless clouds of rocks, and the illimitable line of the horizon. Ah, Russia, Russia, from my beautiful home in a strange land I can still see you. In you everything is poor and disordered and unhomely. In you the eye is neither cheered nor dismayed by temerities of nature which a yet more temerarious art has conquered. In you one beholds no cities with lofty many-windowed mansions, lofty as crags, no picturesque trees, no ivy-clad ruins, no waterfalls with their everlasting spray and roar, no beetling precipices which confuse the brain with their stony immensity, no vistas of vines and ivy and millions of wild roses and ageless lines of blue hills which look almost unreal against the clear, silvery background of the sky. In you everything is flat and open. Your towns project like points or signals from smooth levels of plain, and nothing whatsoever enchants or deludes the eye. Yet what secret, what invincible force draws me to you? Why does there ceaselessly echo and re-echo in my ears the sad song which hovers throughout the length and the breadth of your borders? What is the burden of that song? Why does it wail and sob and catch at my heart? What say the notes which thus painfully caress and embrace